He threw a leg across that iron horse and pulled the throttle down. A million things rushing through his mind like that rumbling sound. Living life in his own eyes, direction isn't clear. So searching all these years.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Answers from Mars Hill. Pastor Ski from the Rushing Wind Biker Church out in Holbrook, New York. I want to welcome you to today's show. Today is our 4th of July show. All about freedom. We're going to be talking about freedom a lot today, and probably some next week. But, we are coming into the day, the weekend, that we celebrate our freedom as a country, our independence from an oppressive existence overseas, and we got to create our own identity, our own future, our own ideals, and that's something that we all hold dear. Every individual, every group, every religion, every faith, every spirituality, every color, every creed. We all like to have our individual identities, and within the United States, that was always meant to be a beauty of diversity and unity, which, as you can see, isn't going so well right now. And so, just to catch up, last week's show we talked about Jesus being the light of the world, how that affects us. And this whole premise of the light of the world is really a very good kickoff to what we're going to talk about today. Because the whole idea of freedom, whether it's a free nation, whether it's freedom of oppressive forces, oppressive governments, or whether it's freedom within ourselves, it's something that is at the core of the Christian faith. And so we're going to be talking about that today. Also some of the emblems, symbols of our country that really symbolize freedom, and how that ties into biblical truths. You know, our nation was formed, and they came over originally to get away from religious persecution. The mandate of having a government that mandated what faith distinctive, and kind of what denomination, Church of England, and made it a state-sponsored religion, which as Christians, many of you out here might not even believe this fact. We believe that everyone should have their own opportunity to decide. We do believe that the Christian faith is the best experience and creates the best society, the best community. But the faith of Christianity is a faith of invitation, not a faith of coercion, not a faith of oppression. Although there have been movements that they've thrown a cross in history that really has not at its core resembled what Jesus espoused, and are kind of have an aura of possibility. They were a Christian movement, and as I've always said, if you want to judge things as Christians, pick up the Bible and see if they're actually doing what the true faith and followers of Jesus would want to do. And very exciting time of year. We actually have at our church, we have our big event this weekend, the Down Biker Run, and we will be unified with a lot of motorcycle clubs, associations, civilians, as we call them. Also, people from different churches are going to come and celebrate and contribute to a very important fund, because face it, a lot of people that ride motorcycles get into accidents. and a high percentage of those accidents, obviously, because of the nature of the vehicle, are going to cause um, bodily trauma, even death. And so we're excited. We have an opportunity to have our whole community together at our church in the parking lot. DJ is going to be playing a mix of Christian and pop music. So we're excited about that. The weather has finally started to level out. I think we're coming up to a week and a half, 2 weeks of very great forecasts out here in Long Island, and so we're excited about that. I'm also excited. I'm going to be getting on a plane and going to see my family, my son and his family out in California, and we're actually going to be spending the 4th of July down in San Diego. And I've never been there on the 4th of July, but my son has told me that because of all the military bases there, the fireworks display is extraordinary, very extraordinary. And our country really knows how to celebrate freedom. You know, one of the shames is our current administration has not given the okay for the fireworks display at Mount Rushmore, um, just outside of Sturgis, where big bike event, and it's a shame that there are political forces that want to clamp down because of political reasons on our freedoms, even the freedom to express our freedoms. And so I want to dive into this discussion today about freedom. It's 4th of July. We are a country that, no matter what you might think out there, is the freest country in the world. And do we have problems? Absolutely. Are there things we could do better? Absolutely. But just like every individual, you, me, we're a work in progress. And the progress that this country has made in freedoms, in oppression, in racial equality, though we're not there, so don't start sending me hate mail, is by far the best in the world. We have been the champion of freedom, unity, and expression. And so don't believe the forces out there that have convinced you otherwise. You know, I mean, I've been alive a quarter of our country's existence. I've seen what's happened in the last 65 years. And for those who are young, you didn't live through the 60s when racial divide was real, and not innuendo, and not the way it is now. And do we have racial divides and racism now? Of course. We always will. Every country will. It's a matter of the human heart. You can't legislate it. But our country has come great strides. And so check your history books before you start bashing this country. But that's enough of my political nationalism for the day. So today we're going to be talking about freedom as it applies to faith, why the freedom that was brought to humanity from that faith, how that was integrated in the forming of the United States, our country, the founding fathers, symbols that we have of freedom, that we as America, in what are our ideals, we're supposed to be the light of the world, just as we talked about for 2 weeks now, that Jesus was the light of the world, and that light shining into us with the enlightenment of what could be. And we're going to talk about how that applies to our country, how faith and freedom go hand in hand with how a country is run, what it has to do with church, how it is involved in Christianity. We'll be back in a couple of minutes and answer some Mars Hill, our 4th of July show, and we will talk about freedom. God bless you, and I'll see you in a minute.
Hey everybody, this is Motorcycle Mike, the personal injury lawyer. I've been riding motorcycles my entire adult life. During the course of my 30-year career as a lawyer, I've also represented countless injured motorcyclists. If you're one of them, I can be of assistance to you. Go to my website, please, motorcyclemikeesq.com. I'll always be there for you. I'm on your side, when you ride.
Welcome back to the show. And today is going to be all about freedom. Again, 4th of July is right around the corner. And so, I think we should have an opportunity to look at why we actually have this holiday. As someone of faith that really can understand what freedom is, I think this is an important discussion that we need to have. One of the symbols of our country that has been known around the world is Lady Liberty in the, is that the East River? Hudson River? It might be the Hudson River. I'm not good at my geography, even here. And, she has a torch. And what is the whole idea and the premise of that torch? It is the light, something we've been talking about for 2 weeks. And it's the lamp of freedom. Why people came to this country. Why hundreds of thousands, millions filtered through Ellis Island, which is only maybe half a mile, I think, from Lady Liberty. And the symbol of our country is all about freedom, and it's all about being a light, a lighthouse, which it mentions in Scripture, and a light to the world of a place of opportunity, for freedom, for no oppression, and what our country's ideals were. And as I mentioned, we're not perfect by any means, but we're not like what is trying to be portrayed. The fact that I can sit here and have this conversation, there are so many countries in the world that this wouldn't go on. And as you watch what's happening with social media, Facebook, Twitter, and the media, these opportunities are getting harder, and we're losing freedom. And I believe that we should have the freedom to hear the alternative views, whether it's other religious beliefs, Islam, spirituality, Hinduism. I believe we all should have the freedom of expression, and that's what this country was supposed to be. And the freedom. This is not a Christian nation, so to speak, in the sense that everyone is a Christian. Wasn't that the beginning? Isn't that now? But what that always meant in the ideal was the principles of this free society, how our government was formed, the 3 forms of government, and all the things that are in there come right out of the Bible and out of what Jesus espoused to. And so this country was formed on principles, and not just the faith distinctive of believing that Jesus was the Son of God, that died, rose from the grave, something that we believe and know is true in the Christian faith. But the things that Jesus said, there was nothing in there that would create a damaged society, a hard society. And so Lady Liberty, really, the premise of it with the torch came from the words of the Bible. It's really not, it wasn't something that was known in the world before that. I want to just mention in the book of Isaiah in the Bible, And this was talking about when Jesus was going to come as the Savior of the world, to save us from ourselves, to save us from oppression. And Jesus, when he walked the earth, actually went into the synagogue, and he read this, and basically told them, this is me. And in Isaiah 61, verse 1, it says, "The Spirit of the Lord God is upon me, because the Lord has anointed me to bring good news to the afflicted. He has sent me to bind the brokenhearted and to proclaim freedom to the captives and freedom to the prisoners." And Jesus' ministry was all about freedom. And I think what we have to understand, because we have different perceptions of what is free. If we live in a free society, we tend to look about we can go where we want, we can be what we want, do what we want, and much of that still exists in our country for the most part. We still have the ability to create our own destiny, to be able to go into different vocations, and yes, the ability to, if we want to choose a different faith direction, we still have that. But then what's happening is the freedoms that certain groups have are being infringed upon, so that other people can be the oppressors of other people. And so the ideal of everyone having freedom is not happening right now. And so that was the ideal. But what Jesus came for is a freedom that is way more important. Way more important. It's a freedom that, we don't have to have our mind oppressed with all the cares and the brokenness and the anxiety and the stress, the fear of everything around us, the fear of tomorrow, the fear of the past coming back. We have a world that's in chaos right now. And the freedom that is vastly more important is a freedom of the soul, where you can just be and know that everything is okay, life is okay. All the situations might not be exactly what we want, but the freedom to have peace. The things that Jesus said all come back to this idea of freedom. When Jesus said, I bring you peace, peace that you won't even understand, peace that the world doesn't know, and it can't give you the kind of peace that I can give you. And that peace really involves the freedom of worry, the freedom of what tomorrow holds. That person, what are they going to do to me? Am I going to have a fulfilling life? Am I going to have love in my life? Does somebody care? When I wake up in the morning, am I going to get bombarded with all the chaos and the stresses of this world? And so the freedoms that have been sold to us as Americans are extremely superficial freedoms. And you look at our country is really overwhelmed with depression. It's off the charts now, but it's not like it's a new venture. People who are just in anxiety all the time. And it doesn't even matter if their economic status is rich or if they are scrounging for their next meal. Because the fear inside, the bondage within our mind and in our soul, knows no boundaries. It knows no economic situations. It knows no race or color, creed. That anxiety, that fear, as a Christian, this is our spiritual battle. This is the battle that goes on in your heart. the battle that goes on in your mind. And I lived in a life when, before I found, Jesus found me, that in the best of times, I lived in fear because I'd been through some rough things, and you end up waiting for the other shoe to drop, so to speak. You don't even trust when everything is good because everything can change in a heartbeat. Stories, and maybe you've had stories, and maybe things around you are getting shaky. And so, where do you put your trust? Where do you put your peace? How do you put your head on the pillow at night without having to have a few drinks, take a few hits on a bong or a joint? I mean, Bobby was talking about that last night, about freedom of having to have outside influences make us feel like we have peace, make us think that life is good. And Jesus came to give us a different kind of freedom. And yes, we celebrate the freedom this country has had, and we have fireworks and celebrations, and we have small gatherings, big gatherings of people who are celebrating such a superficial freedom. And there's nothing wrong with that. People in Iran, people in Russia, people in China, they don't get to celebrate that kind of freedom. But there are pockets of people, actually. Two of the greatest growing churches in the world is the church in China, the Christian church in China, and the Christian church in Iran. And I just saw a video 2 days ago of thousands of Iranians out in the water getting baptized. And they're jumping and they're cheering and they're praising God, and they've been freed of the spiritual oppression that is so much more powerful of stealing your life than the freedoms that are very superficial. That we can walk down the street and we can buy the car we want and we can do the things we want to do and go to the churches, the synagogues, the mosques, the temples that we want to. Those are all very superficial, considering that inside this head, inside your gut, inside your soul, most of you out there, and I know this because I frequent a place that I have literally thousands of friends, all walks of life, and the majority of them, they have a hard time sleeping, a hard time resting, because when they shut down, the mind starts, and they never get freedom in their mind, and they always wonder, and they always question the hard things, the good things, and their soul never has peace. And that's the peace that Jesus came to give us. And this 4th of July, I start thinking about the peace that really goes deeper than, not peace, the freedom that goes deeper than what we actually celebrate in this country. So we're back in a couple of minutes and answer some Mars Hill. And I think I'll bring my producer Bobby in and get a different perspective, some questions, and we'll see you in a minute. Hi everyone, Pastor Ski here, and I want to thank you for watching our program. I want to just tell you about two resources that I have for you, sources of encouragement. I've lived a very challenging life, and God has allowed me to go through a lot of things, and I've written 2 books. The first one is called The Fear of Life. This is kind of my life story of a very hard childhood, very dark childhood, dark family life, and how God redeemed my life from it, how he showed me life when I thought that life wasn't available. And then I wrote this book called No Sting when I went through my battle with terminal cancer, and how God healed me, how he enlightened me, strengthened me, and made a big difference in my life. And both of these very encouraging resources, sources of inspiration. If you know people who are struggling, people who have hard lives, or people that are struggling with cancer, they would be probably a good resource. And if you would like to purchase one of these books, you can go to BarnesandNoble.com, Amazon.com, and the Zulon Press bookstore. And I appreciate your support, and get these out and help a lot of people. God bless you all, and I'll see you down the road. Welcome back to our program. This is Pastor Ski, and this is Answers from Mars Hill. And I want to bring my producer Bobby in. And, freedom is important. 4th of July is coming up. It's not about fireworks and parties. It's a lot deeper than that. How are we doing, Bobby?
We are doing pretty good. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. What are you doing with 4th of July?
I don't know. Maybe a little barbecue, family,
Cool. Cool.
Just enjoy, enjoy my freedom.
Yes.
And do absolutely nothing.
That's it. Freedom to do nothing.
Exactly. That's our choice.
Yes.
I just wanted to ask your opinion and your definition. There's the term separation of church and state, and that could be easily confused on the meaning by the sound of that. Our forefathers of this country made it clear that our freedoms came from God, not from the government.
Right.
And that was like very important, that, and a lot of people don't realize that. Everybody can say, we're free because the government allows to do, no, there's certain freedoms that do not come from any man on this earth, that they only come from our Father, our Creator. Right. Could you just explain a little bit about church and state and what the real meaning is? Because I always thought it meant one thing, and then I realized, oh, wait a minute, it means the total opposite of that. Could you kind of enlighten us on that?
Well, I mentioned earlier that this country was formed by a group of people who were oppressed because of their religion. And at the time, they were in a nation that had a national mandated church, which there's a lot that have that nowadays. Mm-hmm. And so part of the freedom that they understood, even being Christians for the most part, if not all of them, was that they didn't just want to have the freedom to practice the religion that they had chose, but they wanted to have a land, form a land, that no religious distinctive would feel oppressed, and that the government would govern, and the church would handle religion, and the mosques and the temples and the mosques, temples, synagogues, they would handle, the religion of choice, and that there would be no oppression of forced religion. And what has been corrupted is the government is choosing what faith distinctives will have that right. Because atheism is a religion. Mm-hmm. It's a perspective of life.
It's a belief system.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Humanism is a religion. Anything that you put your life in and you guide your life by, you are religious about. People can be religious about cleaning. They could be religious about sports. Religion is not an ethereal term for, the cosmic spiritual things. Religion is something you've dedicated your life into. Right? And so this country formed the Constitution, Bill of Rights, and safeguards so that, number one, the government couldn't pick a religion. Number two, the government couldn't attack a religion. They couldn't say, you can't do that. And so that's what separation of church and state was in its ideal. Right? and that also led space to. I mean, we have a country that has the right to vote, the right of our opinions. That we can still have programs like this. I mean, social media platforms have decided they don't want that anymore. But we all don't have to see the same way. But we need to hear the conversations. You know, and as society changes, there are always going to be minorities and majorities. And in our republic, in the way that we are formed, the ones that are the majority are the ones that are probably going to have a lot of things in the realm of how they want to believe. Right? And so what happens is now you have other forces that are trying to oppress certain philosophies, to chase people out of those philosophies, and to clamp down on people within those philosophies that they don't have a right to have their say anymore. And we're looking at a movement in our country that they're just loud. What's happening now in our government, and even in the progressive movement and the far left movement, they're not a majority. They're just loud. And this problem has been created because the people who tend to be conservative, they have conservative ways to promote their conservatism. So they're not screaming in everybody's face because they know that's rude and abusive. And unfortunately, over the years, since like the 70s, with the Weather Underground and groups that wanted to do these things, and now through the higher education, they're just screaming loud, and they scream over. And so now there's an illusion that they're the majority, and they're not. They're just the loudest. You have, and the phrase silent majority is something that we've lived with for a couple of decades now. And, and there are people in that silent majority that they don't want drama. And that's the sad part, is that minority are much more rampant on their convictions. Although I don't agree with much of them, they're more passionate about it. And so they yell louder. And the people who are conservative, a lot of them are just mild people, just want to go about their lives. They don't want the drama. And so we're where we are today, And so, as far as separation of state and religion, that's what it was supposed to be. But now it's being reworded by our government, that they want to view it in a different way.
Yeah, and just like you said, I think you used the term safety gaps or something, or I forget.
Safeguards.
Safeguards, okay.
Yeah.
A lot of those safeguards that were put in place are really being put to the test right now.
And they're trying to rip them down.
Yeah.
The interesting thing is that there was one that was put in place that actually the Democrats, I think it was Reid, that created what was called the nuclear option in the voting in the Senate. And the problem is they did it for their agenda, and then the Senate switched. And so, they created a space for the other side, which happens to be the side I agree with a lot. And so they understand that, those safeguards were there to protect us from them and them from us. And so whatever's going now, there's going to be a swing again. And when it happens, it's going to happen. And, we're supposed to be in a free society. And I don't agree with a lot of the things that some of my friends agree with, but they have the freedom to live that out and to be that. But so should I. And the government shouldn't get involved in that. So that's, I guess, an important question. It kind of pinpointed one area of our freedoms.
Yeah, because, I mean, like you said, you don't want any religion that gets, infused into the government. You're forcing that religion on all your citizens, and that's the standard, and that's, even though our forefathers were all Christian, they all believed in, God, they didn't want that for the religion that they believed, because they knew it was wrong.
Now, even secular humanism is a religion. It's one philosophy among many. but now they want to believe that that is the human ideal. I mean, look at our country, and that's just not the human ideal. So, I want to touch on one more thing in this segment. I'm going to deal with a little bit more on the word for the week this week. Um, Christianity was based on, or followers of Jesus, on the way humanity was supposed to live in community, and the ideal, which was supposed to be what the church was supposed to be all about. And to create this space where we could be free from anxiety, free from fear. Those who don't have are being taken care of, and so they don't have to worry about where their next meal is coming from, being taken care of. And those that were blessed by having maybe vocations, maybe having family histories that have created much substance and resources. And they would be the ones that were blessed themselves to be able to bless those that don't have. And so what's happened now, and I'm going to touch on this a little bit, is there are people who say they follow Jesus, maybe they do, and they don't understand that they have to be in a church to feel freedom. Not only in church, but they have to be in church to feel freedom. Because what happens is you have a community that all have the same ideals as far as not just what they believe socially and morality, but as far as trust and love and serving each other and all these things. And we need an arena that we can be safe, have peace, have comfort, not have fear, and have peace in our soul. And unfortunately, the majority of people who espouse to the Christian faith, they have a very small, meager church awareness. They might go on Sunday, they hear some, it's no more than a motivational speaker, I think, to many people. And they live most of their life in the secular world, among all the other forces, the other tensions, the other beliefs, the other agendas. And so they never are free to trust out in the world. And so now they come into church and they're just not trusting, they're not caring, they're not serving people because you are who you hang out with. And someone like me who very involved in my church, all my intimate friends, my close friends are all in our church or are Christian. And then I have thousands of people who I consider my friends out in the world, in the motorcycle community. And so, I have my arena, my safe space. That's why Jesus was the shepherd, and there was a sheep pen. That's what a church is supposed to be. And so, I go out as a minister, and I go out being prepared to know what I can say, what I can reveal about myself, what I can say without judging them. Because in church, we want to hold each other accountable. When we're out there, we want to love them. And so, you have two different arenas, but what happens is when people don't have a church, they have no arena of safety in their whole life. And so the freedom that Jesus actually came to give us, Gospel of John says, I think chapter 8, verse 36, that he who the Son sets free is free indeed. What does that mean? It's your soul, it's your mind, it's your spirit. And that is hard to happen in the world. But when you have the kingdom of God, which is supposed to be a church, churches, our corporate identity, you have the freedom to be yourself, expose your weaknesses, work to get stronger together. And that's the freedom that Jesus came to give us. And I'm going to touch on that a little more in depth with my word for the week, because I really want to end this program on helping our viewers understand that the peace up here, the peace in here, the peace in your soul is the most extraordinary peace of freedom I don't know why I'm talking about peace. I guess they go hand in hand. The freedom of all the oppression inside is really where the power of the gospel comes. And when we come back with our word for the week, I want to focus in on that. Speak to the people who are of faith and also to the people who are looking for peace in their heart, freedom of oppression, freedom of fear, anxiety, doubt. And we'll be back in a minute with the word for the week.
Hey everybody, this is Motorcycle Mike, the personal injury lawyer. In addition to representing injured motorcyclists for over 30 years now, during that same time, I've represented countless car crash victims and construction workers injured on construction sites. If you need my assistance, go to my website, motorcyclemikeesq.com. I will always be there for you.
Welcome back to Answers from Mars Hill, and this is my word for the week. We have been talking about freedom. And we live in a country that I guess we pride ourselves, or always have, with being one of the freest nations in the world, if not the freest nation in the world. And all those things are coming attacked right now, and coming at all the forces that are trying to redefine what freedom is. We're coming up into the 4th of July, and this is the day we celebrate the independence of our nation. And what exactly is freedom? You know, we have what the world and what people want to describe as freedom, and a lot of that, as we've been talking, is very superficial. You know, is freedom inside of us, or is freedom around us? Where is freedom? You know, Jesus came to give us freedom. I mentioned in John chapter 8, verse 36, it says, he who the Son sets free is free indeed. And what he was saying was, you can have all different realms of superficial, worldly, if you will, freedom. But until you experience the freedom that can only come through the confidence that comes with the connection with the living God, the God that created us, the God who actually put the purpose in you, the creativity, giving you all your gifts and talents, and being able to express that, your unique personage in the world. Have you experienced freedom? You know, corporate freedom is one thing. You know, and yes, we have the freedom to express our faith still, hopefully, in our country. And, you know, there are people that are meeting in mosques, and there are people that are meeting in temples, and there are people that are going through spiritual ceremonies and things like that. And then you have people who are gathering for other kind of social reasons. Freedom to gather and go listen to whatever kind of music we want to listen to, whether it's rock and roll, whether it's classical, whether it's opera. And there are so many freedoms that we have in this country, yet we're burdened in our soul. We're burdened to the core. You know, people just aren't happy. You know, right now we're looking at a time in our country, and we're out of it in a large way, where we've been locked down. we've had a lot of our quote-unquote freedoms taken away, and then they're kind of handing it back to us as they see fit, in dribs and drabs, little at a time, freedom that they want to give, but still, when you see we're being able to gather in restaurants and ball games in our homes, and the masks are getting less and less and less, there's still an oppression in the air. There's still a freedom in the air. There's not a freedom in the air, a bondage in the air that people still feel. If this happened once, when's the next thing going to come around the corner? And that's a very valid perception, because the forces that are in this world, whether they're political, ideological, national, have learned something very dangerous to you and me, that at the drop of a hat, they can grab our freedoms back. They can keep us from going across a state line without having to be identified, whether it's a COVID test, whether it's what state we're from. And it's a very sobering condition we're in right now. And because of that, the majority of people, they don't feel free. They're just not feeling it, because they're still looked at by other people. You go into a store and there are people who are wearing masks, and it's like you're wondering when somebody's going to say something. And even vice versa, people that are wearing masks are wondering when people are going to mock them, demean them, say evil things, allude to things, and they're not feeling free. Nobody's feeling free. And what I want to propose to everyone out there is a freedom that is independent of all the things that we've gone through, of all the things that we will go through. And the freedom only comes with the core peace that comes in the Christian faith. When you can know that everything is heading in a direction that is for your best benefit. And as the Bible tells us, if God is for us, who can be against us? And when we walk in the principles of God and we treat people and love people and walk through life in this demeanor called Christ-like character, or in Christ, however you want to word that according to our word, that you can have a peace despite what's going on. That everything around us is surface. And real freedom comes when those things are not given the ability to put us in bondage. Whether it's material things that we are enslaved to because our purpose, our fulfillment, our happiness, our joy are tied to so many things. And that word tie is very important because it's a leash and it drags us around and it forces us to worship these things in order to have happiness. That's not freedom. When you need to have that, and if you absolutely have to do that, even in my culture, riding a motorcycle, and if there came a day that I couldn't ride a motorcycle, it's kind of just another day. Am I going to miss it? Yeah, but it's not going to make me feel any less free to enjoy myself, free to appreciate everything around me, free to understand that life is good, eternity is good. Surrounding myself, as I mentioned at the end of the last segment, and this is key for those out there that are followers of Jesus. You're missing the whole point of why Jesus died for the church. Yes, it's an individual relationship, but Jesus died so that we could have a corporate entity, a society, a closed society that feel the same way about life that we do, that hold truths that we hold dear, that strive to be people like Jesus who care and are generous and are serving, and loving, and working out conflict, because we're human, we're not in heaven yet, but there will be conflict, and that's why much of what is in the letters that Paul wrote to the churches was how that we could be free of conflict, because it's going to come in, because the dark forces of this world, our flesh, our worldly desires, and yes, the dark powers of the spiritual realm, they want to come at us, and they want to make us uncomfortable, and they want us to be selfish, and they want us to be at each other. But when we can come together and help each other heal from the brokenness of the world, to care about each other to the point that when you're in a good place, you're helping people that are in a bad place, and when they're in a bad place, they're helping you. When you have that little fight, because we're all different, you know that freedom, peace, love is more important than any conflict that can possibly come between us. That's why everything through the nuances of Jesus coming, Old Testament and New Testament, are all about freedom. King David said in Psalm 18, "From my distress I called upon the Lord, and the Lord answered me and set me free." What was he set free from? The need to have distress. You know, at times God will resolve the issue, and other times it's good to know that there's a purpose in what I'm going through. There's something that God wants to do in me, and he's allowing it. It's a freedom from thinking life is arbitrary, and you're at the whims of the world, the whims of what can happen to this body, of what can happen to our finances, what can happen to our family, what can happen to sickness, a pandemic, and all the terrorizing dark things that are all around us. See, the freedom that comes from Jesus, for those who believe, is that freedom. But you need to be part of a community so you can walk around in freedom. You know, the Bible talks about, I don't remember exactly where, that I went about in freedom. They went around in freedom. It's because as we gather together, we can let our guard down, we can let our hair down, we can be ourselves and allow other people to be themselves, and not to attack them, not to condemn them, and vice versa. And when those tensions come and we do something, we work it out because we love Jesus. Brought us all together. And so you need to be out in a family of faith, because we need to, and life is going to be played out in the world. And you're going to be out there where you can't let your guard down, where they're all self-interest is all around us, and darkness and temptation and evil and things that want to break us and want to wreck our families and ruin our children. They're all out there. But we need that space where we can be free to be ourselves. Because once you have that, you develop an inner freedom that even when you are in the world, you've developed a resilience. And so you don't feel the oppression anymore. I'm going to be myself, and it doesn't matter what the world thinks. And that's real freedom. That's what the woman with the torch in Hudson Bay, New York Harbor, that's what that freedom, the torch represented. Freedom inside so we can just be and live and enjoy. That's freedom. That's what 4th of July ought to be about. But as a follower of Jesus, that's what every day ought to be about. So that's my word for the week. And, join us next week on Answers from Mars Hill. I hope you've enjoyed the program. Tell your friends about it. Maybe they need to hear something a little less kind of religiousy. I don't know. That might be a word. And tune in next week. It's Pastor Ski from the Russian Wind Biker Church. God bless you all. I'll see you on the road.